Tales from my D&D campaign.
Previously,
I am the son of Lady Vasaris. Can you give me the message, since she's no longer alive?
the message was merely an invitation to meet with my lord, and my orders, if she is not here, are to wait for her and to guard her lair. You are in her lair.
Damn, getting involved with the dragon sounded interesting. Then Black shatters his spine within the armor.
It is only right that I meet justice at the hands of a champion of Bahamut. So, this guy was like a fallen paladin of Sirius.
So where in Vistria do you want to teleport to, exactly? Your in-laws' mansion? In-laws? Mansion? I think the courtyard of the Basilica sounds good. I'm not in that big a hurry to see my in-laws. In-laws? Yes, I'm married. We already covered that. What about Daggerface? I can cast Sending, at least let him know what happened. Then Draven casts the spell, and when the world fades back in around them, they are in another country, half a continent away. So the party arrives via teleport to stand before the imposing tower of the Basilica of St. Hitomi, the headquarters of the secretive Hand of Sirius, known colloquially as simply the Basilica. That's it? I was kind of expecting more.
We're servants of Sirius and of Vistria. We don't need a big flashy place.
And the guards inside the oversized doors recognize Black and Draven, greeting him with great respect, but still requiring a secret passcode. Instead of taking the narrow stair that snakes up the tower, they descend a broad staircase which leads underground, where another set of doors open into a large underground cathedral, complete with stained glass windows backlit by continual flame spells to give the illusion of sunlight. More like this? Yeah, not flashy, huh? We do need significant magical facilities. The base actually stretches further down, splitting into several distinct wings. The rectory for priests like Black, the laboratory for artificers and other arcanists, and in the middle the dormitory, which includes the barracks and facilities for the guards and other paramilitary members of the Hand of Sirius. After vouching for their compatriots, Black and Draven head over to High Priest Matsomi's office in the transept, to be debriefed by the High Priest as well as by Jonasson, Earl of Hanley and the top secular leader of the Hand. Meanwhile, Little One spars a bit with the arms trainer, and Angel is just looking round. By the infinite sky, I did not expect to run into another gnome here in the Fadelands. I'm Ulias Beradar Thiswell, unofficial Duratanian liaison to the Hand. I'm assisting them with all manner of arcane research. I'm sure you are.
Oh great, another one.
What the racism? There's a little of that around here, but most of them are quite decent people, and they live their entire lives under threat of invasion. But they finish up their business, and as they emerge from the offices, Draven is accosted by a 15-year-old acolyte. My lord, the Marquis of Rowan. Son. Your son is 15? How old are you? Old enough that it's a little weird, but not a lot weird. I don't care about that. Did he say you're a Marquis? He's mostly making fun of me because I don't like to be all formal. But yes, that's my title. Draven Row is the hereditary heir to the March of Rowan, a small but valuable coastal province in northern Verandi, as well as the major city of the same name. Its value and access to water made Rowan one of the first provinces to fall when the Diluvians invaded 171 years ago, which is a source of personal shame to Draven, though most people would argue that the Empire's advance was unstoppable, and there was no blame to be placed. But his forefathers escaped northward into Vistria, as many did in that dark time. It is said that the influence of Sirius, the Protector, was most clear in those days. Unseasonable mists or fogs rose from the land which even the noonday sun could not burn away before mid-afternoon. Under this cover, refugees made rapid progress, hidden from Kuatoa eyes, and acts of valor and self-sacrifice by the soldiers of the brother nations seemed to be rewarded many times over. On one occasion, a unit of Vistrian scouts found a large column of refugees and fell in to escort them across the border. When a large Diluvian raiding party happened upon them, the mounted soldiers could easily have escaped, leaving the others to be butchered. Instead, the sergeant sent only his youngest man ahead to lead the refugees, and the rest of the scouts turned around and charged into certain death. And die they did, but soon after the battle was joined, a small pod of ankegs, great insects which till the soil at the cost of eating the occasional head of cattle, burst up from underground, devouring a handful of raiders and throwing the rest into disorder. Few of the survivors saw any more of the battle, but legend holds that the monsters attacked only the fishmen, ignoring the valiant, doomed humans as though guided by some unseen hand. This history of misery has left Draven a lord in exile. He retains the title of his forebears, a marquis being similar to an earl or count, just a fraction above them, but with no land or wealth to his name. Like most exiled Verandi nobles, his parents and grandparents had lived mainly as honored but not always welcome guests of various Vistrian nobles, in the same way that the exiled king of Verandi lives in Castle, alongside the king of Vistria. When Draven was still young, his father married him to Ivana Elstina, heiress to the wealthy Silverlode barony. Her ambitious parents had inherited good lands and made strong investments of their own, earning wealth beyond their station, but it was more difficult to rise in noble rank. There are over 150 barons in Vistria, but only 31 earls, marquises, and counts, not counting expatriates like Draven. So by marrying into his family, Ivana gained a greater title for herself and any heirs, and with that comes greater standing within noble society, while Draven gained the wealth and connections to do his artificing research and to gain the attention of the Hand of Sirius, where he could work towards the eventual liberation of his ancestral home. Around this time I've been watching a lot of Crusader Kings 2 Let's Plays, and given that Draven's backstory was one of nobility, I added a whole layer of detail to Vistria, and particularly the nobility, in case he were to get involved in politics. Not that there was much chance of that, given the non-stop assault of plot hooks. So they exchange father-son pleasantries, but Tobin's like, "Have you been to see Mother yet?" "Not yet. We have one more stop in town, then we'll head right to the estate." "Well, she and the Baroness are redoubling their efforts to marry me off. What do you think? If I were to convince them that I were gay, do you think that would hold them off for a year or two?" "I think your grandparents would try to marry you off all the sooner, before anyone found out." "You're probably right, I suppose. I really would like a few more years of freedom, though." "I can understand that, but some things are beyond my power. Your best hope is that they can't find any female heirs who are willing to marry down. We can only pray." Draven's only child, Tobin is a clever young man who, despite his demeanor, was a little more devoted to the spiritual side of things than his father. He was currently researching the Shadowfell and training as an archivist, a class something like a divine wizard. Almost as if he were a potential backup character in case Draven should happen to die. So the party heads out to do what they really came here to do. They find the Tarkish trade office set up by Don DiCorso's people and make an appointment to see Elena. "So now that we're here, couldn't we just sell the spoons ourselves?"
Wouldn't that be screwing DiCorso?
"Totally, but it might increase our cut." "You could try to deal with the government, but it's hard to figure out where to start. Finding a private buyer might be easier, and you might get just as good a price, plus cut the dwarves out of the deal, but then the food probably won't go to starving Verandi refugees. The fact is, though, Elena, the Don's top dwarf in this part of the world, has negotiated the best price she could get from the government over a period of months. A big part of what we're doing is to help thousands of people. Plus, DiCorso may not have been perfect, but he did pay us for every step of recovering these things, including a big advance to come here."
These people need help. Also, we made a deal.
Going around the Don seems both kind of dickish and like a lot of work, so they meet with Elena. She makes time very quickly when she learns who they are. She has everything worked out and ready to put into action, taking the spoons and handing them a bank draft for the remainder of the 30-some thousand gold owed to them after deducting the advance they got back at the chasm. They walk back out into the street, thinking of all the ways to upgrade their gear with that money, when they hear a massive crashing sound followed by a number of people screaming. There are several really big stone shapes, like hammers, looming a couple of streets over. They're visible over top of some low buildings because they rise over 20 feet high, maybe more. It's hard to say as they rise and fall and jostle all around, but they appear to be moving southward, more or less as a unit. They rush over to find it, hearing more crashing noises and heavy impacts that they can feel through the cobblestones. When they reach the street, they see this six-legged stone behemoth stomping slowly forward, with the giant mallet mounted at its four corners, smashing the cobblestones on one side and collapsing storefronts on the other. Beyond the golem, following a safe distance behind, is a finely dressed young man on a horse with several assistants on foot. Seeing armored men who had run towards the chaos rather than away, he called out, "A bit of help?" "What?" The young man rode around to them, giving the machine as wide a berth as he could. "Hail, good sirs, I am Andrew Midgard." "The son of Count Midgard?" "Well, yes, but that's beside the point. My inexorable project here has suffered something of a control failure. It, needs to be arrested in some fashion, preferably without destroying it, or being destroyed by it."
A control failure?
"What the hell did you build this thing for?" "Oh, I have a civil defense artificing license." "A what?" There aren't many mages in Vistria, but we have a strong history of artificing, and golems have become an important part of our national defense.
If not for the threat of golems, we'd probably have been conquered by now.
Whatever. So you built this crazy thing and unleashed it by accident? Good job. You didn't have any kind of backup? Well, I have a scroll of a spell which can expose a failsafe rune. Just pressing the rune with your palm will override its pseudo-intelligence and reset it to passive mode. Of course, you have to get to the rune. The rune which is on the underside, between the second and third axes, between the back legs. They were not very happy with the young dilettante, nor were they all that confident in his failsafe, and frankly they gave zero heed to his request to avoid causing too much damage to the behemoth. That thing was on a property damage rampage and needed to be stopped, and they didn't see any other heroes nearby. As they approached, the thing reacted, triggering its combat AI and surging forward with a brutal trample attack, which was doubly obnoxious because everyone within 5 feet of the massive golem had to make a reflex save or be knocked down every time it moved. A real problem for Black, for whom Dex was a major dump stat, though at least his retributive amulet and a Thorns-type spell he uses let him hit it back for some of the trample damage. I had modified the Slaughterstone Behemoth from Monster Manual 3 in a number of small ways, including limiting each hammer to a 90-degree fire arc, which is normally not how things work in D&D at all. But it rapidly became apparent that not damaging it too much would be the easy part. As the golem had 30 armor class, loads of hit points, its earth-shaking stomps, and hammer blows which would daze the target on a failed fortitude save. Black could deal his counter damage, but essentially couldn't stay on his feet around this thing. And though he and Little One could usually take a hammer blow without losing their action, those still hurt, and then Little One got knocked down too. Draven wasn't sure how much he should be attacking, since, as a fellow artificer, he could appreciate the value of not destroying it. He buffed the party where he could, and he did try a couple of shots, but they mostly just bounced off. While all this was going on, Angel was executing the backup plan, which was rapidly becoming the primary plan. She danced around the hammers and the massive feet, avoiding the initial trample and easily maintaining her balance. She was small enough relative to the behemoth that she could end her turn in its space, and she spider climbed onto its underbelly. From there, she pulled out and cast Midgard's scroll, and sure enough, a stone compartment slid open to reveal a glowing rune. On her next turn, she touched the rune, causing it to glow brightly for a moment, and nothing happened. I don't understand. That should cut off the flow of energy to all its motive centers.
I've decided that I hate that guy.
So now we do have to kill it?
I'm not sure what I can do to damage it.
Me either. DR10/adamantite is a lot, and golems are immune to sneak attack. Black struggles to regain his footing, Little One mountain hammers for a good amount, and Angel spider climbs around the machine's girth. Then standing on top as it rocks back and forth, she started firing force bolts directly down into it. They've done a bunch of damage now, but it's not even down to half yet, when suddenly it slows down significantly. The feet and hammers grind to a halt. Of course. The failsafe cut off the flow, but the energy still in the system took time to utilize. Why didn't you know that? You built it. Well, the ideas were mine and I did much, but I had hired these artificiers to assist me and to help with the parts I did not know. The issue did not appear in our scale testing, and we never did a full-scale test of the failsafe. I am still learning.
And your experiment destroyed almost 2 blocks.
I will pay for that, of course. I will take responsibility, and if anything I cannot cover, my father will step in, I'm sure. Seriously, next time, just make it piloted. Stick a gnome in there. A piloted golem. How unusual. I'm not sure I trust a gnome more than a well-designed golem.
What do we do with this guy? Kick his ass?
Don't tempt me. What is the law on this? It turns out nobody was hurt, so there's no question that he can buy his way out of any significant trouble. If he didn't have a license, or if there had been any injuries, he could get prison time, or more likely house arrest, depending on whether the victims accepted his reparations. If anyone had been killed, then he would be in very serious trouble, regardless of wealth or social class. Because what I'm thinking is, if he designed this thing, the Hand of Sirius could use him. Yeah, I agree.
That thing hurt.
Really? I hadn't noticed. So they take Andrew Midgard back to the Basilica, leaving him in the hands of the top artificers in residence.
Just what we need. You're back for one afternoon, and you managed to saddle us with an entitled, undisciplined fop.
What's her problem? Higgins is the department head. You've worked with her, and she's no picnic to deal with on a personal level, but she is a good artificer and committed to the defense of humanity. Young Midgard is pretty rough around the edges. We'll test him, teach him a bit, and sort out whether or not he'll be useful to us, but if he's responsible for that behemoth, I think he has a lot of potential.
Potential to blow up half the laboratory. Excuse me. I need to oversee the work party salvaging his technological terror.
That being dealt with, they get some horses and ride from New Vaniver into the northwest corner of the Earldom of Sword, to the Silverlode Barony. Side note, this is an old land, inhabited for a very long time. The majority of Vistrian place names are extremely straightforward descriptive names, or corruptions thereof. Draven's in-laws have 2 houses in Silverlode, including the barony's seat of power, but Draven and Ivana live in their own home. Her parents provided the land, of course, and they definitely helped Draven to establish his career, but the house itself, complete with a full alchemical lab, was built with his own money, proceeds of his research and of his crafting skill. It is that desire to earn his own way, within reason, which helped turn an initially frosty relationship with the Baron into one of mutual respect. And it was to his home they now rode, servants and guards waving, and the porter running inside with the news as soon as they were spotted, so that when they passed the gate and approached the front door, the lady of the house was out, glamorously dressed for her lord's arrival, next time, on Tales from My D&D Campaign. Oh, I can't believe I recorded that whole thing without changing to the new world map. Now we're in Vistria.